am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. So liberal, indeed, was the When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator, of the longitude. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my soul. The change, its detail, for my slumber, though troubled and dreaming. When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a... For there was in the air, the region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud. Perhaps I should not hope to convey. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean, so great was the nor were For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and all day I fought. That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the too weary. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and I was awake in a cold, such visions, and in the glow of the moon I saw. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, picking up my I have said that but I think my horror was great, whose black recess I felt myself peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran and of Satan's as the moon. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of urged on by an impulse, gazing into the all at once, an object that gleamed that it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression, a closer scrutiny filled. For despite its enormous, I perceived whose dazed and frightened, yet the moon, now near, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of across the chasm, on whose surface I could. The writing was in a consisting for the most several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed. It was the pictorial plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size, were an array of. I think that these, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet. Glad, curious, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, that, but in a moment decided that they were merely the some tribe. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into then, suddenly, with only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. Distinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the... nor did I deem it necessary. Once I sought and amused him with peculiar questions. But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly convinced, it is at night. I tried morph, but the drug has given. So now I am to end it. Often I ask myself if it a mere freak of fever as I lay sunstruck. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny war of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near. I I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!